My name is Carole Peters, and I serve as the president and CEO of United Way Next. I'm a former United Way professional. I worked in McHenry County, Illinois from 2017 till the middle of 2021 as the president and CEO of United Way of Greater McHenry County. And I came into the network in February 2017. My second week on the job, I attended the Great Rivers Regional Conference, which at that time was that year was in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So for those of you who are in the network and you're working either leading a local United Way or doing the work at a local United Way, I've walked in your shoes, and that's really my passion is serving United Way Next as a former United Way professional because I've been involved with the work. I also was heavily involved with our state association in Illinois, which is where I got to know Jeremy Wingirter, who's on the call today, and Laura. I know you're a former state association executive. So I volunteered as a board member and was on the executive committee. But I also served for a period of time as a volunteer after I left the United Way. And then I actually did some member services support for that state association prior to coming on to United Way Next. So I have a different lens as well from that experience. So with that said, I'm going to just ask us to take a minute to really go around the room and introduce ourselves. We have a slide deck that we're going to follow today. But I want to make sure that, today is really about each of you. And so we'll just take a little bit of time to go through and introduce ourselves. And when you do that, if you could just share briefly about, who you are, what role you play today, and where maybe you're calling in from. And if you do represent a local United Way, which local United Way it is that you represent. And so I know I'm a little off course on my presentation, but I think let's start there since we have such a good sized group and you're really our focus. So I'll go around just as I see names on the screen, if that's okay, and have you all go around so I don't miss anyone. So Laura, would you mind going first?
Yeah, I've been around the longest too. I started my United Way career in 1986 in United Way of Greater Philadelphia at that time. And we assumed many, many counties as I was there. So I ran the first physicians campaign. That's a story for another day, but that was fun. No, it was not. It was horrible. So I then moved to major markets and did a focused employee effort with our $26 million worth of customers back then. So that was when I really kind of got the bug for United Way and felt really, like this might be my career. Went to United Way in Bergen County, did a marketing plan with IBM, the first one in the nation back then. And then went to United Way of America at that time as a consultant during the Arimony days. I also got fired from the Arimony days, so I left as a consultant at that point, which was fine because I was starting a family and took a little break. And in 1998, Tom Toronto and Bergen County asked if I would come and help them with this new 2-on-1 thing. So we started the 2-on-1 program in New Jersey. I was there 10 years. And then I decided I would end my career in North Carolina, kind of merging all my loves together with 2-on-1 and with United Way work. So I was the state association president and CEO for the past 10 years till October 1st of 22. So lots of United Way experience, lots of love for United Way.
Wow, I did not know that all about you. So thank you. That's a rich history of being part of United Way. So thank you for that. How about Rochelle Simon?
Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Rochelle. I am currently the executive director of the United Way of Pettis County, which is located in Sedalia, Missouri, central Missouri. I joined United Way actually, as I was listening to Carole, very similar. I started March 1st of last year, and 2 weeks in, went to Great Rivers Conference and was learning as fast as I could, and have been learning ever since. I'm coming up on 1 year, which is exciting. I am the United Way that I represent is very small, so I'm the only employee of our United Way. Pettis County has about 43,000 folks, and so it's a pretty rural, blue collar space, and it's where I happened to grow up. So I grew up here, left for 20 years, and just moved back for this role. And a lot of my background is in higher education, ministry counseling, and sort of social services nonprofit world. So it's the first I've been with United Way for a year, but been kind of working with folks and trying to love and serve the community for a very long time. So that's a little bit about me.
Thanks, Rochelle. So great to have you here today. Jessica Davis.
Good afternoon, everyone. Certainly a pleasure to meet you, Carole. I feel like I know you just through LinkedIn, but I have been with United Way now 10 months. And I come from about 25 years of nonprofit and child welfare arena, behavioral health, and much, much more. So, but yeah, so I am the CEO for Lake and Sumter County United Way, and we're kind of located in the Central Florida area, closest to Orlando, for those that are familiar with Florida, so we like to say that. Yeah, so certainly eager to be part of this conversation, learn from you and others as well today. But I've been honored to have, just in my short period of time, an opportunity to work with two of actually the chair, our board chair for United Way Next is Ed Rivera, and also Susan Dunn. They just left us just last week, and they facilitated our first board orientation and retreat. And so ever since then, I feel connected to United Way Next, and certainly the mission and the work around what they have been able to give me as a new CEO in this role, and being able to support and lift me up and my team. And so I think that's enough about me.
That's great. Thanks, Jessica. And I should say Ed Rivera extends his apologies to all of you. He had a last minute urgent request come up on some volunteer opportunity that he's doing. And he tried every which way to make this work today. And I said, it's okay. When you have to go do other things, we accept that. And we know, timing is everything. So he apologizes for not being here today. And we'll truly miss this, but that's why we're recording it so Ed can take a listen and get to know all of you better. Patrick Jinks, would you like to go next?
Sure. Hello, everyone. This feels a little weird on sort of an orientation call because I think it's been a year now, Carole, is that right? That I've joined United Way Next. I was about 20 years in the network. I started as a loaned executive, like many United Way people did back in the day. Laura, I was a loaned executive in 93, and going around and making presentations during that time was a challenging time in the United Way landscape. But I cut my teeth on that, became the campaign and marketing director there in Shreveport, Louisiana for 7 years. That was in 1995. From there, I went to Danville, Virginia, where I was CEO for 10 years, from 2001 to 2012, and was 3 years in Lancaster, Pennsylvania as CEO, and was interim CEO of a couple of others, South Boston, Virginia, Greenwood, South Carolina. I loved my days with United Way. I was fortunate enough to get to serve on the NPC and meet tons of system leaders. And my last United Way job was a chief strategy officer for the South Carolina State Association back when they had 250 employees and were running the big call center and all of that. So now for the last 8 years, I've been full-time on what used to be a side gig. I'm a board certified executive leadership coach and strategy coach, and most of my clients are currently nonprofit clients because that's the mission bent. And I'm moving a little more into coaching training now, which takes me a little bit beyond the sector. Yeah, and that's it for now. Still work obviously with a lot of United Ways since I started this coaching job, and working with several right now. So good to see everybody.
That's great. Thanks, Patrick. Jeremy.
Good morning. I am a United Way alum. Rachel, I think we are kindred spirits. I was CEO of United Way of Adams County in Quincy, Illinois. That's my hometown. So I had done my career in higher education for over 20 years and then went back and ran that United Way for 2.5 years. And I started the month before COVID. And that's when Carole was president of the Illinois State Board and really was a great resource for me and a lot of us. And then she recruited me to help in the state level as well. So I have left home, went back to California where I had been living. I'm now in Palm Springs, California, and I am a major gifts fundraiser for a nonprofit hospital. And what I love about this role is that we get donations from our wealthy patients, and we reinvest in our community hospital that helps everyone in the whole area. So it's very similar. It felt very good for me to leave a United Way to kind of go to this model. I am here because I drank the Kool-Aid. I miss being involved in United Way. Our local chapter out here recently collaborated with a larger one, and they're still trying to figure out volunteer roles. And to be honest, anything that Carole does, I'm there. I'm going to be on the bandwagon. So happy to be here and participate and still feel like I'm part of the United Way family.
Thanks, Jeremy. That's so kind of you. Christy Shepherd, how about you? Go next.
Thanks, Carole. Good to see everyone and meet you. I am in Madison, Wisconsin, and I work for United Way of Dane County. And United Way is my second career. I started out my degree in broadcast news, and my jobs were in public broadcasting. So there was a mix of the broadcasting and the development work, and came to United Way because a colleague in the Association of Fundraising Professionals who worked at United Way said, let's have a coffee meeting. And you know how those go. And then I ended up applying and took the job at United Way. That was 24 years ago, last month. And all of my career has really been in leadership giving. So in the workplace and beyond the workplace, major gifts. And the primary part of my position is with our United Way of Dane County Foundation. So we're one of a couple dozen or so United Ways that have our own foundation. And I saw some of the sessions you were doing on planned giving. So I'm still an active United Way employee, but the topics that United Way Next or UW Next has been really supporting, that's been of interest. So that's why I'm here. And also Carole had let me know that she's going to be living in Madison this summer. So I'm going to be taking her to those coffee meetings and having conversations. So that'll be good.
Christy and I are like literally almost next door neighbors in Madison, which is wonderful because I really want to plug into the United Way of Wisconsin and United Way of Dane County, since that's my local United Ways in that area. So, and I've done the same in Florida where I live in Marco Island. I am part of the Collier County United Way, which is run by one of our newer members, Tiffany Mensch. So she and I have been able to connect and have lunch, which is great. Makes me feel like I'm out there and tied to the network beyond just virtual meetings. So it's great.
You can come to one of our United Way Ready groups. So that's the retiree group that I help staff. That would be really fun. Okay, sorry.
Fun. Thank you. Kathy, would you like to go next?
Sorry, gotta unmute here. I'm Kathy with United Way of Lake and Sumter. I work with Jessica, so she's filled you in a little bit about where we are, and we're just at a launching place of really growing here. So I'm really excited what we can learn with United Way Next. I actually have been with United Way for 10 years. I started in Central Illinois at United Way, McLean County, about halfway between you and the gentleman in Quincy. Sure. So we're in Bloomington and really just developed a love for the organization. So stayed with it.
That's great. We know McLean, or I know McLean County very well. So that's awesome. We have lots to catch up on.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Thanks for joining today too. What is the role that you play?
I am the Director of Finance.
Okay,
And that's the same role I had back in Illinois.
okay, good to know. Thank you. Jason Daniels.
Hi. Hey,
Hey.
everybody. Glad to be here. I get so excited when I get the opportunity to see that Live United sign, and it's just so great to see all of you. So my name is Jason Daniels, and I spent 11 years working for two United Ways. I'm from Toledo, Ohio, so I live in Perrysburg, which is a suburb of Toledo. And but I started my United Way career in 2005, and started in fundraising and quickly moved to leading the community impact division at the age of 30 years old. So I don't know why they gave me that job, but apparently I was doing something right. So I did that. I worked in executive roles, started to do some strategy work actually in the last in year 5 of my 7 years in Toledo. And then I worked in the Cleveland United Way, started there in terms of strategy, and then became executive vice president pretty quickly after I arrived there. So had the opportunity to work for a small United Way, a big United Way. Throughout that time, worked on a number of national cohorts, education mobilization, and financial stability. I was on the DEI National Committee with United Way Worldwide, so that was great. In 2016, I moved back to Toledo. And my wife and I started our own business, which I now have, J. Rahman. And kind of like Patrick, I don't do as much coaching. So I'm so glad there's people like you that are out there. I do it, but I don't probably do it like you do it. But a lot of our work is focused in the area of strategy, facilitation. We have a healthy mix of clients. So we not only have nonprofit clients, but we have a lot of corporate clients, manufacturing, hospitals, universities, things like that. Our big thing is listening, community listening. We do a lot of workplace listening. So that's been sort of our focus, and had a little bit of time in 2021 and 2022 working with United Way Worldwide as a client, actually, on some of the modern United Way work as well. So I think the world of Carole. She's my new best friend. We just talked last week, and now you all are going to be my best friends as well. So I'm really happy to be here with you.
That's awesome. Thank you, Jason. You're so kind. And Jasmine Garcia actually has her AI bot taking notes for this meeting because she informed us last minute she wouldn't be able to join. So I just want you all to know that we welcome Jasmine. She's plugged in as a newer member and is actually going to be leading a session for us in April on AI. So we can feature that for Jasmine's sake. So I want to make sure the staff have a moment to introduce themselves. So Christina, would you like to go next?
Hi there, I am Christina. I'm the Member Services Associate. So any emails that you've gotten from me lately, when you joined, that was me signing up for United Way Online. I did drop my email address in the chat. So if you need help with the United Way Online, the newsletter, any of that kind of stuff, that's where you come send me an email. And then once you hit that year mark, you'll be getting the renewal notices from me as well.
Thanks, Christina. Caitlin?
Hi, I'm Caitlin. I'm the Program Marketing Associate. I'm calling in from Wisconsin. I've been with United Way Next for 2 years now. I'm kind of behind the scenes with like Zoom, sending out mass emails with events information, help put together the newsletter, and yeah, that's about it.
So our team is small but mighty. Both Christina and Caitlin work anywhere from 8 to 10 hours a week. I'm working about 4 10-hour days. So if you need me, you can find me Monday through Thursday, typically 8:30 to 5. Of course, I monitor email on the other off days, but we are really here to serve you as members. And just so grateful to each and every one of you for your commitment that you've made to join United Way Next. We made a big commitment for 2024 to change these orientations from being focused on us and more focused on you. So it's so intentional that we're calling these Making Connection sections. And our hope is that you will truly connect with each other. I love that Jason and Patrick are both, consulting and coaches, and they're out there doing things that are maybe have some crossover. And, Jessica and Rochelle, you're both local United Way CEOs, and you just never know how you're going to connect. or even, Jeremy, in that he's on the West Coast and Christy's leading a foundation in Dane County, Wisconsin. There could be some crossover, right? Or Laura may say, well, I'm actually retired and I'm looking to plug into this network. And gee, Kathy has questions about finance and I certainly could be a support. So I use those as examples because it's as important for us that we connect with you and that you all connect with one another as we move through this space today, but in just our community as United Way Next. So keeping that in mind, I'm going to ask that Caitlin help push us forward with the slide deck. And we've already covered a few things that are on the slide, but the slides, but we'll go ahead and just start with, slide 2 there, Caitlin, and we'll go over the agenda quickly so we don't miss anything. So we've already done our welcome and introductions. I'll talk a little bit about our purpose, our commitment to DEI, who we are. We'll talk about our board and the work groups and how you might be able to get involved with that. A little bit about our funding, any of our member benefits that you may not already know about, and then we'll wrap it up with our events and social media and the newsletter and some of the ways to kind of stay connected through Next in advance. So I want to share this slide because I think it's important for you to know a little bit about Next as a community. So we rebranded 2 years ago in May, formerly the United Way Retirees Association. We still have a lot of retirees that are involved in our organization, but we also have a lot of alumni and individuals who are working at local United Ways, as well as organizational members, which are the local United Ways that are in each community or state associations. And so when you think about Next, we are a community of United Way leaders who are really looking to make connections and make a difference. So there are some members who might say, I want to plug in just to learn more about what you're doing and connect. But there's a lot of people who say, I really want to make a difference. We can go to the next slide. We've already done this, so we'll go forward. And so let's talk about the purpose. And so some of this is about that making the connection. So I don't need to read this to you. We can surely share out the slides afterwards so you can go back and kind of reflect on it. But it's so important for our members to take advantage of this community and be able to plug in and invest their time and their talent and their service in ways that make sense for them. And part of this whole Next community is we want to make sure that it's inclusive, that people feel this is a place where they belong, that they can share their talents, they can share in a safe space their thoughts or their dreams or their worries or their concerns, and that we're going to embrace that. And so United Way Next has really come, I think, to a whole new level because of the name change and the focus on you as a collective community, in that we're retirees, alumni, and current staff, and less of a focus just on one of our segments. Let's go forward. So I share these pictures with you because I think words on a screen don't do a lot for me personally, but the images, the faces, the people that you see are all members, people that have served for countless years in the network and people who may have only been in the United Way system for 1 year. You see people on the screen here that worked at United Way Worldwide, that worked at local United Ways, that were at state associations, in every role, in all different ways that they served. Some people in fundraising, some as CEOs. And when we think about Next, I want you to get a sense that that's who we are. There sometimes is a myth that people think you have to be a CEO to be a member, or you have to be what they call a leader to be a member. And we think we're all leaders, right? We all have served and provided leadership in some way, shape, or form. So everyone's included and everyone has a place at the table. Next slide, please. So United Way Next has gone on a journey the last 2 years and really committed to the diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging focus. And so this is the commitment that was recently reapproved by our board. The commitment that we had prior was really one that we took from Worldwide, and it was really not modified for our community. It was simply just a statement, if you will, that was placed on, the website or placed in a document that was shared with the board, but it wasn't really the lens that we were focused on. And I'm really proud of the work that we've done as an organization. And again, I'm not going to read this to you, but we'll share this out with you later so that you can reflect on this statement. But it is incredibly important to me as a leader, and I know it's important to our board as well as the work group that's focused in this area to make sure that in 2024, as we carry this forward, that we operate with a lens that we're always thinking about creating space for conversations that are open and inclusive for everyone in the community. And so again, this was approved back in September. You can find it on our website under the About Us tab. We've also placed it as a footer on every single page of the website because we really want people to see it, view it, read it, and embrace it. Next slide, please. So a little history for us. United Way Next started in 1990. We're 34 years old this year. We were the Retirees Association, and we've gone through many different modifications of kind of like who we are. United Way retirees were really gathering in the beginning days more for social. They wanted to stay connected. They wanted to hang out with their old friends. And a lot of the people that were involved were CEO level leaders who said, this is a place that I can come to and feel like I still have a hand in what's happening within the United Way, right? I can still play a role. And when we looked back at the history, read a lot of the newsletters, kind of when I joined the organization 18 months ago, I realized that some of the things they were doing then, we still do today. But today we talk about it differently because we may be doing it in a different way. So for example, endowment and planned giving mentorship was a part of our fabric for all 34 years. And a lot of mentoring of local United Way CEOs. But at the level that we're doing it now, it's a much heightened level compared to the past. I think we're having a lot more impact in our work because we're being more intentional about tracking it and knowing where we're making that impact. So looking at the history, I think we've always had a lot of fun and social time together. And now the shift is a bit more on how do we serve, how do we show up, and how do we really, invest and give back to the community that we all have been a part of through the United Way. Next slide, please. So who we are as an organization, we're a volunteer membership organization. We are an alumni association, right? Sometimes people get confused by like who we are. And I say alumni because when I think of the retirees, they're alumni. They're just retired. They maybe aren't choosing to work for pay any longer, but a lot of them are still volunteering. And then we have alumni that are out there like Jeremy and Patrick and Jason, who have been with the United Way. Now they're off doing their other amazing careers. And then we have current staff who sometimes people who are new, to the network and they hear like Rochelle and Jessica might say, well, I'm a current staff. Do I really fit within an alumni association? But we're all a part of United Way, and that's our commonality. So we want you to know you all belong. We currently, as of last year, we had 363 individual members, which may be surprising to some of you because there's thousands of people in the network, right, that were out working at the United Way that could be a part of Next. We actually realized recently there's over 42,000 alumni that could join United Way Next. So we want to encourage you that as you feel excited about Next and as you plug into things that you feel bring value to you, that you extend the invitation to your network, your friends, and the people that you knew along the way in your United Way career. And we have 128 supporting local United Ways. So a lot of United Ways plug into Next. They may not choose to necessarily make a contribution depending on their budget size, but a lot of their CEOs may opt to join as individual members. So, we welcome you to join as it makes sense. We have a 19-member board, all volunteer. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we have our 3 part-time staff. We also have some contract support. So we work with individuals who might provide additional support with our marketing, social media, our bookkeeping, things of that nature. Next slide. So let's talk board governance. So these are the names, and I just really, some of the names may be familiar. On our website, we have a whole page that has all the pictures of all the people that are serving currently on our board. And we noted the ones who just recently joined as our newest board members. We have people that are on the board who represent our retirees, the alumni, current staff. We have 3, I believe, local United Way CEOs. DJ Hampton is our treasurer. He's at Trident United Way. We have Rodney Punty. He's at North Central New Mexico in Albuquerque. And we have Pete Manzo, who's with the United Ways of California. I think that's everyone. We have a few folks that are, consulting or working still with other organizations. We have a few of the folks that are on the list are involved with interim executive placement that have actually gone through that academy and have done work at local United Ways. For example, Carrie Strauss is new to the board, but she was an interim executive at a local United Way. So was Keith Barsoon. So even though they haven't been necessarily working at a United Way in the recent years, they have served as interim CEOs along the way. Next slide, please. These are our work groups. I want to spend a little time on this just to kind of share with you what are the different work groups and how might you be able to get involved. So the ones that are in blue are the ones that we've had all along the way. We've always had an Engage and Exchange, which is our program area. We have resource development, member recruitment. So if you're excited about inviting your friends to join Next and you're like, hey, put me on that recruitment team, we would love to plug you in there. We obviously have a nominating committee. And then we have our diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging group. So those existed in the past. Last year, though, we started 3 new work groups: member segment, value experience, marketing, and finance. So if you're a finance person and you say, I love budgets and I would love to be involved with your financials, that might be an area of opportunity to serve. Marketing meets 4 times a year, and they're really looking at how do we as a Next organization elevate our marketing and communication strategy to ensure more people get to know who we are. And then the newest group formed last year, the member segment value, is very focused on our alumni segment and making sure that we're identifying how can we attract more alumni to join Next so that they feel this is a place they belong and it's not just a group of retirees. There was extensive work done last year and more work being done this year around 4 personas that were developed. One as a local United Way staffer, and then 3 other personas that were people in different phases of their careers, but not necessarily working at the United Way. And so that work is being led right now by Ann Fox and Kelly Krebs. Some of you may remember Kelly as a United Way Worldwide employee. Ann also, I think, was at Worldwide for a period of time. That's really new and exciting work, and I think is going to be an area of opportunity for us to really take things to the next level with our alumni segment. Next slide, please. These are the names of the people who lead those different work groups, and all of them are very open to having you consider if there's an area that you say, gee, I might be interested in learning more, let me know. And I can make the introduction to these leaders who would be happy to have a conversation about the work, the schedule that they keep. Most of the work groups are meeting quarterly, so it's not a big commitment. And they do subgroups outside of those work group meetings to work on specific areas. So one area I'm just going to mention because it may be of interest to a few of you on the call. We have requests that come from local United Ways from time to time for consultants. And they're looking for someone to help them with strategic planning or diversity, equity, inclusion work. Could be for executive coaching or something where they really need someone who's going to help make an investment in their organization. So this might mean that the consultant actually gets paid. And we want to be fair and equitable to our members, as well as the United Ways that are making these requests. So we're in the process of creating a consultant program that's like a referral service and directory. So we can actually list all the consultants that are members and the work that they focus on, so that we can make that available to the local United Ways and they can actually see for themselves the names, the bios, and the information and we can then help make those introductions. So that's been in the works since last July. We're getting close to getting that ready to unveil to our community. But that's just another opportunity for y'all to think about, in your journey along the way, wherever you're heading or going, there may be opportunity within Next for you to be a part of that consultancy group. And that could be an expansion for you in your own careers down the road. All right, next slide. So I'm going to just share these very briefly. Some of the next slides showcase pictures of some of the events that we've been doing. So as individual members, we want you to know that you're invited twice a year. We host United Way Worldwide Town Halls. We had last January, we had one with Angela Williams, which was excellent. So she's the new CEO at Worldwide. And then in the fall, we had Lexi Savage, who came and talked about the Thriving United Way framework. We're still waiting to confirm the date for the first half of this year, but we're anticipating they're going to come and do a presentation on revenue diversification, which will be led by Alice Archibald, and then the United Way Worldwide brand refresh that Amoya Kinney would lead. And I think they would do that in partnership. So stay tuned for more on that. Next slide. We have lots of different events that are going on. So we're getting ready to send out soon the DEI roundtable dates. We're hoping to host at least 4 of those this year. It's an opportunity for those who have plugged into Next and been taking advantage of those different roundtables to really come and hear more about what our work will be in 2024 and how we can leverage people like you who are in that space that might want to be a part of it. And even serve as guest speakers. We also launched in 23, and we're going to redo this again in 24, our wellness series. And we've already got 2 of those scheduled, one next week on the 29th, and then one coming up in May. So if you're interested in wellness and you're just, time to take away, take some time for yourself to focus on that area, that might be a series that you're interested in. And you don't have to join all of them. You can simply just plug in for that 60-minute session, and that will give you a lot of information about whatever the topic is of that day. Next slide. I mentioned these 2 because I want you to know that throughout the year, we will have different sessions led by our members. We have the leadership lessons that was offered last year was actually for the Advanced Leadership Program graduates. So if you were part of the ELP program and you say, oh, I was one of those folks, that's actually how I would like to connect with Next, is get together with my old friends from the ELP program. This was led by Mark O'Connell and Donna Panapinto and Jeff Hayward as ELP graduates. And so it was a 60-minute virtual session. We had a lot of people that joined that call, and we stayed on afterwards for like a meet and greet with Mark because people were just excited to reconnect with him. And then throughout the year, we will host 6 planned giving learning sessions, which I know Christy has taken advantage of and alluded to the fact that that's an area of opportunity for her as a United Way employee. So the first 3 sessions for 2024 are on the website and available, so you can click on those and see what they are, the different topics. We record all of our sessions, and following the event, if you register, if you didn't participate, we'll send those recording links out and you can take advantage of it. So I know, Jeremy, you're working in this space, but not within United Way. Our topics could resonate with you. So don't ever hesitate if you are interested in something sounds like, hey, this could work for me. We may talk about the United Way, but I think it's always appropriate for any type of nonprofit fundraising or planned giving. All right, next slide. We have our Interim Executive Academy that we partner with Third Sector Company on. I featured some of our graduates of that program. So, sometimes I'm thinking of Laura specifically. People have served and they're not quite done, and they say, I'd like to do something. I might even be interested in making some money at it. And so they get plugged into the Interim Executive Academy, go through the training. Members of Next receive a 30% discount. So that's like a $240 value. I think it's almost $800 for the course. It's 2 hours per week for 8 weeks, or I think it's 2.5 hours now for 8 weeks. They're in the middle of a cohort right now, but the next one will launch beginning of May, early June, I believe. And so if that's of interest to you, I would encourage you to consider having a conversation with Joan Brown, who is the senior strategist at Third Sector Company. Third Sector is owned by Jeffrey Wilcox. And Jeffrey is on our board of directors. He's a former United Way professional. His wife is Maria Chavez Wilcox. They live out on the West Coast, and they both were United Way professionals. So they're very invested in our community of United Way Next. And Jeffrey's been gracious as he started Third Sector, and he has a lot of different trainings and opportunities. This academy has really been interesting for our members, and we've been able to assist local United Ways with some interim placements. So our members who do this program are then called upon, and if it works out and they're interested and it works out for that local United Way, then they become the interim. We have just had a placement of Kyle Ron. Kyle's actually featured. She's on the screen in my left side. She's got the long blonde hair. Kyle is serving as the interim executive or CEO in California at Fresno and Madera County, and just got placed in that short-term CEO interim role. So it's exciting work for us, and it's exciting for our members who get to plug in this way. So again, if you're interested in learning more about Interim Executive Academy or any of that work, I'm happy to have a further conversation. Next slide. I want to encourage you to think too that we want you to feel like you can be a part of what we're doing. So these are featuring some of our guest speakers, people who have actually participated in some of the sessions that I described earlier, some of the events that we host. And I just share, their faces mainly so you can reconnect with people and see that these are your friends and colleagues across the world who have said yes to being guest speakers. So if there's a topic that you're passionate about that you think we could really benefit from sharing with members, no matter what the focus is, I would love to hear more from you and know that that's another way for you to invest your time and energy in Next. Next slide. We want to make sure you stay connected with us. So following us on Instagram, Facebook, we have a Facebook group, we have a LinkedIn group, and they're both private groups. And then on Instagram and LinkedIn, we have regular pages that you can follow us on. It's important to me that I encourage you to follow us on those pages. And then as you connect with other people who are United Way professionals or former professionals, invite them to our page so that they too can connect. We try to always make sure all of our content is on social. It's also in our newsletter. We no longer send a newsletter to the home. So if that's something you miss, I'm sorry, we've gone electronic. We're trying to save money and save paper, but we do send out 4 newsletters per year, and there's quite a bit of content in there. So if you don't read the newsletter, it'll be repurposed and you'll find it on social media. Next slide. This is something that all of you can take advantage of. If you're a local United Way leader, Rochelle and Jessica and Kathy would already be taking advantage of this, and Christy, but all the rest of you can have access to United Way Online. And sometimes our individual members don't know that. But it looks a little different because they just refreshed the whole United Way Online page. But if you want access and you'd like to register for this, let Christina know, and she can send you the registration link again. It was in your welcome email from her. And so you click on it, register, and then you can sign up for Global Digest and get their updates twice a week, which sometimes has really great information in it that you might say, hey, I want to register for something that they're offering, like the brand refresh, just to hear about it. But if you're not really interested in the Global Digest, you can just simply sign up for United Way Online and still access the same content, just in a different way. Next slide. I've touched on a lot of this already. This is more for the local United Way members who would benefit from hearing about, what are some of the things that we do. So I'll just say this so everyone benefits from hearing it. We do mentorships for local United Way staff and CEOs. If a CEO is new to the network and they really want to just connect with someone to just get some onboarding information, we're happy to do that. I know Jessica's working with Susan Dunn. I'm working with Rochelle on that. But we want to make sure that you know that exists, and for staff as well, depending on their interests. So if you've got somebody in resource development that's new to the United Way and they could benefit from talking to one of our volunteers, I can make that happen. You just send me an email and I'll have an introduction call with you to better understand what you're looking for and then move it forward from there. I track all this information for United Way Worldwide because they've asked for us to send them a mid-year report and an annual report on the support to the network. And we really have, brought this to a whole new level. So the impact that all of you as volunteers have on the network through mentorships or your gifts for, guest speakers, all of this has really made a profound impact in ways that I don't know we would have realized even just a year ago. And the last thing I'll share on this slide is staffing transitions. So we have this new area of opportunity that I feel like is bubbling up. And I think of people that have gone through a career transition in the past that could potentially be a great person to assist us with this area. So Laura, knowing that you've recently retired and you might say, gee, things seem quiet and I'd like to plug back in. We could have you talk about that journey that you've been on and the way that you transitioned, right? And how did Next have a hand in that? Or how can we have a hand in that? And I think it's an opportunity for us that our Engage and Exchange work group is really going to focus on in the coming months to ensure that alumni who have left the network still feel connected, and people who maybe have lost a job in the last 6 to 8 months and they're saying, I'm struggling with the new opportunity. How can we help them in that transition? And then even the pre-retiree and the retirees who are like stepping away from the United Way, but they want to stay connected. Thanks, Rochelle, for joining. That might be an opportunity. So that's an area that we're just, investigating now and I think is going to come to the next level. All right, next slide. All right, we're going to stop there and I'm just going to read this and then we're going to open it up because I really want you all to have an opportunity to share any thoughts. So, what would you most like to see United Way Next offer, or what is it that might provide value to you as a member? And so, this might be so new to you that you say, I don't even know yet. I just want to start dabbling and taking advantage of the resources that are out there. But if there's any thoughts, I'm totally open to feedback and just want to open it up for some conversation. So you can stop sharing your screen. Thanks, Caitlin.
Well, I'll just start and say, sorry, Laura,
I know.
with not having an active role in United Way, I'm just looking for ways to stay involved and to be connected and to see those old friends. Because I do feel like even though my time at United Way was short, with my background specifically in fundraising, I might be able to help look at different ways of fundraising than the traditional model. So I'm happy to offer my skills, but then looking for connections as well.
That's great. Thanks, Jeremy. Laura.
Yeah, for sure. I guess I was surprised when I retired. Everything kind of went radio silent because, and I think I probably did the same thing. You're so busy when you're working and so engaged with what you're doing that you forget you miss the people who retire. You think that they're doing this glamorous, wonderful stuff, and actually they're missing you too. So for me, that was the first step, just to try to reconnect with, people I'd been with my whole career off and on. So that was important. And I have been doing consulting for 211. And I feel like people don't want to pay for it, one. And I feel like there's an opportunity that isn't yet addressed about how 211 and United Ways can show value in a more powerful way that can raise new dollars. And I don't think everyone takes advantage of that. So I have all these ideas brewing in my head. And I just thought, oh, okay, well, here's the place to have conversation about that. And maybe I can contribute in some way, or maybe I can just see old friends, which is cool too. So.
Yeah, that's great. I love the idea of leveraging 211 and that resource for local United Ways, especially because I think that's very much underutilized. People aren't thinking about how to leverage that and the data behind it, along with some of the Alice data to say this all plays together and can help with fund development. So I see Jessica nodding her head. So I'm guessing, there's an opportunity, right? I mean, it could be that Laura and Jessica, you connect and just talk a bit about that, right?
I think it's not only that. I think also 201s are going through such transformation now. And when you don't do that work, then there becomes an abyss between the 201, whoever the service provider is, and whoever the United Way is, right? And then how do you mend that, and how do you work together to make sure that this great resource really can benefit your community.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Mhm.
Other thoughts?
Carole, you and I have already talked about the consultant work that's in the works, and you know that I'm definitely interested in that. Finding ways that those of us that are in the consulting field, either part-time or full-time, can engage with the network. And quite honestly, some of that, many of us might want to do pro bono or deep discount. And some of it we might not, but just the exposure. And when I was thinking about the exposure, it dawns on me looking at the faces on the screen and the faces that were in the pictures that you presented. So many of those people I know. The thing I might miss most about being in the United Way network are the conferences. And, I know things are different now. We do everything on Zoom, which is amazing that we have it, but I hate it because I think we miss so much human connection that we used to have. I mean, those of us that have been around the network a while just remember how much actual full-on connection happens at those events. So I don't know if there are any opportunities for United Way Next members to gather physically, whether it's a day or a session at a regional conference or one of the United Way. I don't even know what United Way Worldwide does anymore in the way of conferences. That's how out of the loop I've been on that stuff. But that to me is it's an area I'm fighting hard for. Is let's not just say we don't have physical connection anymore, since now that we have Zoom. So anything along those lines, it also gives for consultants an opportunity to conduct a workshop perhaps, or, and get some exposure, some potential business, some reconnection with old friends, all of that stuff. So those are my thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that. I will share some thoughts around that, but I want to give everyone a chance to just share some thoughts if there's any other commentary. I saw a little bit in the chat here.
The only thing I'll say is I love the comment around 211. We're doing some homelessness work here, and people keep forgetting there's so much valuable data at 211s. And I think 211 needs to be elevated, and not just my community, but in so many other communities are doing so much work and play a big role there. The one thing that I think would be interesting is, when you think about United Way, you think about resource development and community impact. And of course, while I spent many years there leading that work, I continue to follow what you all do. And so what's interesting is there's so much happening in community right now. It'd be very interesting to sort of get United Way, United Way's stance or its take on how it impacts communities is important. And I think when you lay in, not with an emphasis of DEI, but when you lay in the polarization and conversations around what's happening with race and diversity, equity, inclusion, access, I'd love to, and maybe it exists, but I'd love to sort of get, if there's something coming out soon around United Way's thought leadership around best practices in community impact and partnerships, because I feel like it's changed like every 3 or 4 years. And I feel like it's so rapid that I feel like our philanthropic foundations nationally, like Ford and others, I feel like they're almost leading the charge because they're very vocal in certain areas. But we know that United Way's work is on the ground and we have a different lens. So I'd say it's probably not missing. It's probably somewhere already, but I'd love to really gain a sense of like where are we headed in local communities from a community impact perspective.
That's a really great question. And I don't know that I can answer that because my lens isn't worldwide, and I sometimes miss things there because of our focus. But community impact has been a topic that was brought up by another member last fall, and it made me stop and pause and say, a lot of the things that we're plugging into center around planned giving, fund development, and isn't community impact. And I think we sometimes forget that that's such an important piece of the work, but that's not what we've been called upon to kind of invest time in. And so I should speak to this really quick, that everything within United Way Next, we try to look at it from a perspective of, are we invited to the table by United Way Worldwide and the local state association? If they invite us to the table and say, can you assist with, then we listen, and then we decide, do we have capacity? And if the answer is yes, then we offer the support. And that's really where we've been called upon certain areas to focus on. As they roll out the Thriving United Way framework, they have already told us that we are plugged in to the menu of options. And when the assessments are being done by the local United Ways and they see this is an area of opportunity, they're going to then say next. And the state associations might be that go-to resource for a certain area. But we're still waiting to hear on that. So I'm not sure if some of that will come out about community impact as part of the Thriving United Way framework. So more to come on that. Anyone else?
Say that I mean, I think you see it in on the marketing side though, too, because you see, young professionals now telling a story about United Way that's not community impact centered. It's talking about all the things. It's like, it's like the old loan executive program when you throw everyone in the kitchen sink about here's our process and not really talk about why we're doing the work. So I just, the more I read, the more I get concerned that there's not this connection any longer with why we're doing the work. Or not that we can articulate.
Right. Good to know.
And I know it's time. I just want to say this, Carole, just for putting your back pocket. My statement also around community impact is because when it comes to Next, we have such a diverse group of people who are on this call, not just as consultants, but as retirees or whatever. We need to know, because for some of us, we're not in community in that way. We're going to events, right? So I think the value that brings, and maybe that's what the new strategic plan will do for us, is being able to bring that back to this group specifically. In some instances, we are not as plugged in, as I think Laura said, in community. So to have that lens and to wear that hat as a reminder, it just empowers us to even be better community citizens as retirees, consultants, because we are not doing that day-to-day work. So just wanted to put that emphasis there in terms of why I brought that up too.
I actually think that would be a really neat place for the consultants, like some state nonprofit associations certify consultants in their standards of excellence. So imagine United Way Next, or any other consultant for that matter, paying some fee to get certified in the new United Way framework, for example, so that we are versed in what the current things are. I mean, today I still work with United Ways that are old, like community chess models still, right? And they're just now getting to this whole, outcome measurement, community impact. And then for a while you had we are a community impact United Way. And then you had, now it's just so many things. Well, it's collective impact, or it's this, or we're a hybrid, or I know United Ways that don't do any of the stuff that would make it recognizable as a United Way. So, as Jason was talking about that, I thought that might be a really neat thing for the consultants to have an opportunity to have a track of staying apprised of the direction of the network and truly the best practices, the standards, the framework, whatever that might be.
Yeah. So one of the things we did talk about, and I know we're going to be at time, so if people have to fall off, you're welcome to, step away, knowing that this will be recorded and we'll send it out. But before we go there, I'm just going to mention to Patrick's comment about getting together face to face, right? So historically, United Way Next has had a gathering once a year in person. It's typically been a Monday through Thursday, Monday through Friday kind of get together. And so it's, kind of sprawled out over the course of many days. This year, they're looking at Portland, Maine as a location. Historically, because we were retirees, there were a lot of retirees that would participate in that. And it was difficult for current staff or alumni to even get to something like that. We have talked about doing some regionalized gathering dates where it's one day for a few hours, not necessarily for hours on end or night, overnight stays. So I think that's kind of the alumni focus, is we can't attract people to come to a full week's long vacation because you're not going to take vacation to do that. But we can look at other ways to connect people face to face. And we were intentional about making sure that becomes a reality. In regard to the regional conferences, so I will be attending the Great Rivers in Milwaukee. I will be speaking. I submitted a session, and that will feature, Next. And it's not necessarily just on Next. It's more about revenue diversification and some of the experience that I bring to the table using data to help with that community impact piece. The other state associations, the other regional conferences hosted this year, there is a Southeast Regional Conference that'll be in early May. Unfortunately, I am not in town that week, so I can't attend. And then the Western Regional Conference will be out in Nevada in early August. So for those who consult, you can submit sessions to the regional conferences and be guest speakers. So if you're interested in that, I could send you the information that I have to say, here's an opportunity for you to do that. So I think Jason and Patrick, I can, at least forward it along. I have the Western regional information that I can pass along. Those proposals aren't due till May, and then they select people and notify you if you're going to be a guest speaker. I'm planning to submit something for the Western Regional Conference and attend that conference in August. As far as next gathering at the regional conferences, there was some hesitation about us doing that because we are former employees, and it's like, how do we make this fit? So it's just additional conversations, I think, to see what works, right? See if we could make that happen. So I think as we continue to progress forward, I think there will be more openness to that. And even saying it's a separate time for the next members to get together. It's not that we're coming to be a part of the conference, but we want to just have a room where we can all connect, right? We happen to be in the same location, and that would be a possibility. So I'm glad that you raised that today, because I think if that's something of interest to our members, we want to know it. And then lastly, I'll share, if you're going to a regional conference and I'm there, I'd love to see you. So let's make sure we're intentional. Or if any of you are traveling across the country, I'm in Southwest Florida. So if you ever make it to Marco Island or Naples or Fort Myers, let me know, because I drive an hour or two to find you or meet with you. And there are a lot of people that seem to find their way to Florida. So depending on where they're from. We have a hub of people that are alumni that are still in Alexandria, Virginia, or that area. So I think there's a possibility of kind of gathering folks there. But again, Christy, if you're at the Milwaukee conference, I'll see you there, and let's figure it out. And if you're not, then I'll be back in Madison this summer, and I'll definitely make my time to come around to Dane County and United Way of Wisconsin to see everybody. So.
Thank you. And I was just going to say, maybe it's more the informal part, but at each of those, maybe there's a way that United Way Next could host a happy hour, or like be part of, like, we're gathering for dinner, right?
Yeah,
like there's some
right.
good things that happen outside of the real structured stuff.
Yeah.
And I will not be in Milwaukee.
Okay.
It coincides with Milwaukee Brewers spring training in Phoenix. So I got to go with baseball. Sorry.
I gotcha. Well, I realize we're past our time, and I want to be mindful that you are all busy professionals and busy retirees, or whatever you're doing. We can stay on for a few minutes longer, but if there's anything that today you heard and you're like, this has me thinking, and in a week or two you say, I want to reach out to Carole, Christina, Caitlin, any of us, feel free to do that. And, we welcome your thoughts around how to make things the best they can be for United Way Next. And, we can't do it all, but we are taking in the feedback, and we take it very seriously. So I did send out a new member survey recently, and some of you did take the survey, and I want you to know I've read some of them, and I'm going to continue to read them as time permits, because we're going to use that information with our member segment value work group as they're focusing in on our alumni segment specifically to say, what are we missing? Because we want to be able to connect as many dots and make that full picture come to fruition this year, and not leave people feeling like, well, I said this, but I never heard anything. So any of the feedback from that survey, I will be sending out to all of you that participated, and make sure that you've got it. So anyway, so grateful to see you all. Thank you for your positive feedback, Jason. I appreciate it. And just so grateful to have you all engaged in this community.